Alright, Shalom. This is another news type update. Sit down. Also, I shall proceed on with the further parts of the breaking down, bringing forth the truth concerning the so-called Jews in the appropriate time, if the Lord wills it. Now, this article has been brought to my attention whilst I was looking for some material to present to you brothers out there. And it's basically saying, it says the average UK family just 2 weeks away from breadline, right? And I'm going to get into the article really quickly, and it's not much to break down, but this is exactly what is spoken about in the scriptures as pertaining to martial law, famines, and all of that. It says the average UK household is just days away from an emergency situation in the event of a sudden financial hardships, right? And that's one of the main things I talk about on this channel, right? After the destruction is financial hardships, right? And I want to bring out more videos, not just on Russia and all that, but more bringing out the financial instability of the society we're living in, because it's all a big bubble, right? It's all a debt-based bubble. And the very currency that you and I use on a day-to-day basis is currency that which is not really money when you go into the definition of money. Money is gold and silver. It's tangible. It holds its value over time. Whereas the debt, the currency that you people trade in, that was borrowed. That money was borrowed. I wouldn't even say money. That those pieces of paper were borrowed into existence, right? And people that really have the responsibility of paying that debt is you. You're subject to that debt. You're subject to the elite banking families who I wouldn't say want their money back, because they set the system up to where you're dependent on the system, right? They set this whole system up, this currency system, so that you are, when it's time is necessary for all chaos to break loose, you openly submit yourselves to the elite banking families, namely, by way of the RFID chip that's spoken of in the book of Revelations, right? So it says, in the average UK, right? So this is talking about the vast majority, right? Average UK household is just days away from an emergency situation in the event of sudden financial hardship, according to a new report released this week. Meanwhile, one food bank has reported a surge in participation. These consequences of severe economic fallout will present a real challenge for many people, considering that more than 1/3 of households, 36%, in the UK have no strategy in place to cope with financial hardships, right? So one in three of the people that you see walking up and down in London and all that, man, they have no situation. I mean, really, if it's concerning the brothers, we know what we're gonna do, man. When all of them rich neighborhoods and all of that, really, that's the food that the Most High is, not trying to go off or anything, but the Most High could have set them houses up in whatever stores they got. The other 2/3 of the pie chart, they most likely could have set that up for the brothers, man. Right? Me personally, I ain't gonna have no problem in that day just jumping up into them rich neighborhoods and taking what I gotta take to survive, because power is gonna be appreciated in that day when we get back into that's why really people like us at GMS look forward to these financial hardships and World War III and all that, because real power, not the value of pieces of paper and titles and degrees and all of that. That's all a facade, man. Right? Power is power, man. Right? Just like how you have it to where you got you might be at the job and women can do whatever they want, but you can't say certain things because it's seen as a harassment. Right? That's because we're not in our power right now. Men are not respected within society. The power that comes with being a man, whether it's being the physical strength or mental stability in a time of hard situation, right? That's going to be respected again. As a matter of fact, the scripture says, right, In that day, a man's going to be more precious than gold, man. In the book of Isaiah, the 13th chapter, right? And it also says in the book of Isaiah, a man's going to be seen like to a tout, a means of getting out of trouble for these women, man. So these are the times. That's what we're looking forward to, man. Cause I ain't really got. I don't have no power in this society, man. There ain't really no power you can attain in this society unless you sell out to the devil. And that's when he gives you more facades and more titles and more bubbles, man. You know, CEO and manager of this and what do you call it? All of these different titles that Esau gives out, man. That don't really mean anything, man. Right? Because King David was a king, but he also was a warrior, man. Right? He went when he was putting down the dowry. When Saul was trying to set him up because he wanted to set up King David, right? When he set him up for his daughter and Micah, he basically said, "Give me 100 foreskins from the Philistines." And King David went out and got them, man. Right? So that man, that was a great man. So you would have had to respect that man when he spoke. Right? But in this society, you got all kind of faggots, lesbians, and soft people, right? For lack of a better term, because that's what they are. They're soft people. They ain't hard in the mind, right? They're soft. Even these gym-bound dudes, they're soft to the core, man. Twinkie soft, man. That's why a lot of them be juicy, man. Right? A lot of these, which if it's a man, those are effeminate, because a woman's supposed to be soft anyway. It's a soft, cuddly toy to him, man. That's what a woman is. But man ain't supposed to be all soft and messed up in the head, right? And that's why right here you're seeing it, man. More than 36% in the UK have no strategy in place to cope with financial hardships. But really, the men, right, men at GMS, we've done our homework, right? We've got our strategy in place, and guess what that strategy is, right? Seeing us out there, whether it's raining, cold, or whatever mood we're in, we're still out there, man. Right, pushing this word for you Negroes, you hard-headed Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. Right, we still push this word, and once this word is pushed, man, the scripture says we ain't gonna worry about that food. My people must, in the book of Proverbs, the first chapter, on the 21st verse on down. Therefore, I will laugh at your calamity. I'll mock when your fear comes. We're gonna be mocking when your fear comes. When your fear cometh as a terror and a storm. Right, and it also goes to say something to the effect of, "They shall call upon me, but I will not answer." Right, and I believe it's the same verse where it talks about my servants gonna eat, man, but you people are gonna go hungry. And if it's not in that particular script, verse and chapter, then it's not. I've seen it somewhere in the scriptures, man, and the scriptures just slipping me right now. But that's a fact of the Bible, right there, man. The servants of the Most High is gonna eat. That's our strategy. So, you know, that's 36% of people that have got a strategy in place to cope with financial hardship. That doesn't count. That doesn't apply to us. You know who it applies to? It's gonna apply to guys, and I know they don't live in the UK, but it's gonna apply to them guys that persistently be coming up at GMS, right? Namely, and you got some dudes in the UK that come up against the truth. Names that come to mind is Hard Rock Light, right? Soft Rock Light. So in other words, man, that dude is all out of weight and out of shape. You definitely can't handle financial hardships, man. Because if it's coming to the UK, you're damn sure it's coming to the US, man. Because the UK is in a better financial standing than the US is, man, by a long shot. Alright? Notwithstanding, I don't know which bubble's gonna burst first, man. You know, you can have a big bubble and a small bubble. You never know which one's gonna burst first, man. Right? But all of these guys that come up against GMS, man. Right? This is really prophecy. This is what's coming, man. Right? Financial hardships and all of that. People ain't gonna bug out, man, because they ain't got no food. Right? And that's what we're gonna see in the scriptures just in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter. It says, according to the report from legal and general sighting data from Center of Economic and Business Research. Right? It says the survey of some 5,000 people in the UK analyzed the Independent. Right, analyzed in the Independent, which is a newspaper, right, shows a marked contrast among people across the UK to be able to make ends meet following the loss of a job, or another economic crisis. And what other economic crisis are they talking about, man? Right? Like a lengthy illness, man. They ain't talking about no lengthy illness, man. They're gearing up for taking this economy down, man. Right? And the reinstitution of the institution of this chip, man. Right? It says in Wales, for example, most people would only be able to survive for 7 days in the event of an economic setback. So once they do away with this economy, you're only going to be able to last 7 days. So really, one of these purposes of this articles like this is to make you realize how dependent you are, right, on the government. So when economic breakdown comes into play, right, you know your place, man. You stay in line. You realize you are nothing but an asset to the elite banking families, and you fall right in line and get that chip, right? And it says and the consequences of severe economic fallout, right, would present a real challenge for many people, considering that more than 1 in 3. I've actually jumped a bit, didn't I? I've jumped a bit, slack it. Right, it says right, so it says in Wales, for example, most people will only be able to survive 7 days in the event of an economic setback, compared with Londoners who will be able to keep going for about 83 days, it says. Right, but Jake ain't out there in London, ain't got no food for no 83 days, man. And that might be, that 83 days might be indicative of dudes looting and all of that. Right, it says before their funds run out, according to a poll. So you got about 83 days of money if you live in London, apparently. But some of these statistics are skewed because the most of the money that's made in London is owned by people that don't live in London. A lot of people that make 50 grand a year, which is nothing really. Right, 100 grand a year. People that make that kind of money, man, upwards of that, they don't really live in London, man. They drive in and out, man. Right, from them suburban areas where they can stay away from you niggas, man. And you niggas are gonna be the ones that are gonna be whatever economic crisis they're talking about here, whether it's lengthy illness and how you're gonna get a lengthy illness by way of that Ebola, right? By way of them the chemtrails and the food that you eat and all of that. That's all geared up to fuck you over. Man. That's all geared up to break your body down, right? But we know they got some. These ones haven't really got nothing popping off in the last decade and a bit, man. Right, he's slacking, man. Since the World Trade Center, since he blew down the World Trade Center and blamed it on them Muslims, man. He ain't really done nothing hard. Where you gonna get this thing moving? And one of the ways we anticipated he was gonna get this thing moving was that Ebola, which is, seems like it's gone quiet, but every time you look back and see how many people died off of it, one day is 4,000, next day is 5,000, next day, it keeps on going up, man. Right, so you can still use that, right? But people became aware that it was a government thing, man. It was a government backed project, right? Just like that thing with ISIS. But really, the reason why this information comes out and why some of these things are going to still carry on is the people that bring it out, right? The so-called insiders, right? That bring it out and come back into the world. The elites don't care about killing them because they know they have no control of whatever's going to happen. These people are so solely dependent on the government, man. You see it here, man. You see it presented in this one small document, right? How people are completely dependent on the government, right? And then with that, I'm just jump to the scripture here in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, and I'll start off at the. I'll start off at about the 13th verse. It says, "And the other till the ground shall mourn, for the sea shall fail through the blasting and hell, and the fearful constellation." That's talking about once these missiles go off, man, you ain't gonna be able to till the ground and all of that. Right, you ain't gonna be able to grow crops and all of that. And that's the people that grow crops. A lot of people don't grow crops anymore. You ain't got no farm or vegetables outside or anything that you can actually eat. People just depend on canned goods and all of that, man. food that's not really fresh. Right? So this is the 13th verse. It's well, the 14th. It says, "Woe unto the world, and them that dwell therein." It says, "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh." Right? And the one people shall stand up to fight against it, and they shall another with swords in their hand. There shall be sedition among men, right? Invading one another. They shall not regard their princes nor kings, neither regard their kings nor princes. And the cause of their actions shall stand in their power. Right? It says, "A man shall desire to go into a city, shall not be able to." Right, for the pride of the city, because of their pride, right, the city shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And it says, "A man shall not have no pity on his neighbor," because when you ain't got no food and all of that, you ain't gonna have no pity on the gym next door or anything like that. You're just gonna take that shit, man. You're gonna go in there and take it. And so the man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of lack of bread. Right, and that's the point I was getting at there. I'll just read that verse again. It says, "A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but he shall destroy his neighbor's houses, right, with the sword, and shall spoil their goods because of lack of bread, and for great tribulation." Right, and just to better emphasize that point, man. Right, look, when you see, because if you're kind of healthy, you've got some kind of mental integrity and all of that, right? You can ration your food, right? Okay, you put this food aside, and that's okay. That's not how the UK is set up. Here's another article, right? Completely unrelated, but it is related, because these are the people that's gonna have these. This is also the people that because when you are overweight and unhealthy, like this, the vast majority of the earth, the vast majority of the people that are in these so-called westernized countries, when you're overweight, you're unhealthy, you're more susceptible to diseases, Ebola and all of that. When you see them movies where people have survived an outbreak or anything like that, it ain't never no fat bastard like this, man. Right? It's always someone that's slim, and someone's probably been exercising and all of that and keeping their body in tip-top shape, man. Right? It says obesity costs UK more than violence and terrorism study. It says obesity, right, costs the UK more than armed violence, war, terrorism, and new study says, right? So all of these things, right, that you see here, right, are less expensive than obesity, right? Going into the diseases that you get from obesity and all of that, right? And these are the people that are gonna be hungry the most. They're gonna be the people that are gonna bug out the most, man. And that's the vast majority of the Western world. That's the vast majority of the Western world, man. The Western world is the consumer world, man. They don't know how to ration. I mean, most of Jake is overweight, man. Right? So they're gonna bug out when there's no food in them stores, man. In the event of a job loss by way of this economy going down or anything like that, they're gonna bug out, man. It says research commissioned by McKinsey and co-found the UK losses 3% of GDP treated. The UK loses 3% of its GDP treating obesity and related illnesses. It says, according to McKinsey Global Institute, obesity has the second largest health impact on the economy after smoking. Right? So that goes to show you, man. Right? If you ain't dying of them cigarettes, right, you're probably dying off of this obesity. Right? It says that in the UK currently spends 47 billion every year on treatment of obesity in comparison to the armed forces and war and terrorism, which collectively, right, which means altogether collectively cost the UK, right, the country 43 billion, right, or around 2.5% of the GPT. So altogether, armed violence, right, war and terrorism cost the UK 43 billion, right, and obesity, you fat bastards out there, right, right, you either might say overeat, man, and just overdo it, right, and not really, I mean, Jake, eats a bit, gets a bit on the sides, but that's part of the curses, man. That's part of our curses, right? And not only that, a lot of the people that you see and that look big ain't really big, man. within Jake's community, right? Within Israel, because they'll be strong as shit, man. Right? I've seen dudes like that. They look big, but they ain't really big. It's just big bone, man. Right? I've got uncles like that, man. They look like they're fat. They all look like this guy, but they can run. They can conduct themselves. They can run about, and if they're gonna fight, they fight. If they're gonna go to the gym, they go gym. But they just they just big bone. I've got uncles and family like that, man. Right? But you Edomites, man. Right? And you're all big like this, man. Right? You Edomites out there that'll be overeating. You're the ones that are gonna really bug out over this, because really Jake is gonna be prepared for mental hardships and all of that, man. All right. Nevertheless, we get into the last scripture, which is in the book of Ecclesiastes, 12th chapter and the 4th verse. It says, "And the doors shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up, and the voice of the it says, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, right? When the sounding of the grinding is low." And that's what we're in right now. People ain't really working. Jobs are being cut off, and they're talking about things being more and more automated and all of that. Right? So the grinding is season. Right? It says, "And they shall rise up, the voices of the bird." It says, "All the daughters of music shall be brought low." I'm just talking about the music as well. They're coming down to the level that it's at right now. But pretty much with that, I mean, obviously, if brothers on the side he waited, I wasn't talking about you, because most side is gonna be, he's gonna sort brothers out. But this was, this is talking about these Edomites out here. That's overweight and all of that. And they're the ones that really cost the economy, and they're big as shit, man. Right? They cost the economy all kind of money, man. Right? Pretty much with that, man, I'm gonna sign out. I'm gonna say double honors to the apostles, the GMS honors, you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity. Shalom.